Imagine an America where slavery continued for another century, where two separate nations glare at each other across a heavily militarized border, and where the United States never became a superpower. In 1865, the Confederacy came dangerously close to winning independence. Just a few different battles, a bit more European support, or a war-weary North could have changed everything. Today, we're exploring the darkest alternate timeline in American history. What if the South had won the Civil War? The American Civil War lasted from 1861 to 1865 and cost over 600,000 lives, more than all other American wars combined until Vietnam. The Confederacy fought for independence and the preservation of slavery. The Union fought to preserve the nation and, eventually, to end slavery. The South almost won several times. If Robert E. Lee had won at Gettysburg, if Britain and France had recognized Confederate independence, if Abraham Lincoln had lost the 1864 election to a peace candidate, any of these could have resulted in Confederate victory. In this alternate timeline, the turning point comes in 1864. The war has dragged on for 3 years. The North is exhausted. Casualties are staggering. Abraham Lincoln faces re-election against Democrat George McClellan, who's running on a peace platform. In our history, Union victories in Atlanta and Mobile Bay in September 1864 boosted Northern morale and Lincoln won re-election. But in this alternate timeline, those victories don't happen. Sherman's march to Atlanta fails. McClellan wins the presidency in November 1864 on a promise to end the war. By spring 1865, a peace treaty is signed. The Confederate States of America gains independence. The United States is split in two. The border runs roughly along the Mason-Dixon line and extends west through Indian Territory. Washington, D.C. remains Union territory, but now sits right on the border of a foreign nation. The Confederacy is now an independent nation of 11 states with its capital in Richmond, Virginia. Slavery not only continues but expands. The Confederate Constitution explicitly protects slavery and makes abolition nearly impossible. By the 1880s and 1890s, as slavery becomes internationally controversial, the Confederacy becomes increasingly isolated. A pariah nation like apartheid South Africa would be in the 20th century. Britain and France, which abolished slavery decades earlier, refused to maintain close relations. The economy remains agricultural and technologically backward. While the industrial North rapidly modernizes through the late 1800s, the South stagnates. The plantation system prevents economic diversification. Wealth concentrates in the hands of a few thousand plantation owners. Poor whites remain trapped in poverty, competing with enslaved labor. Enslaved African Americans continue suffering unimaginable horrors. Families are separated. People are bought and sold like livestock. Resistance is met with brutal violence. The Underground Railroad continues, but now it must smuggle people across an international border with guards and patrols. The United States survives but is fundamentally weakened. It's smaller, less populated, and economically damaged by losing the South. The national psyche is traumatized by defeat. Western expansion continues, but now there's competition. Both nations race to claim Western territories. They might agree to split them or fight proxy wars through settlers and militias, creating constant border conflicts. Native Americans face devastation from both expanding nations. They're caught between two hostile powers, each trying to use Indian tribes against the other. The USA and CSA maintain massive armies along their shared border, which becomes the most militarized frontier in the world. Forts, trenches, and checkpoints dot the landscape. Families divided by the border can't visit each other. Trade between nations is minimal. Both nations claim to be the true heir of the Founding Fathers. Propaganda from each side demonizes the other. Northern children learn that the South is backward and evil. Southern children learn that Yankees are tyrannical oppressors. Constant border skirmishes and diplomatic crises threaten to reignite full-scale war. Any incident could spark the inevitable rematch. Neither the USA nor CSA becomes a global superpower. Divided, they're not strong enough to project power internationally the way the United States did in our timeline. Britain and France play the two American nations against each other. Both the USA and CSA seek European allies and weapons, giving European powers enormous leverage. World War II presents a fascinating scenario. Does the CSA side with Nazi Germany? There are ideological similarities. Both are white supremacist, authoritarian states. Or does the CSA reluctantly join the USA against the Nazis? Without a unified, powerful United States, the Allies struggle against Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. D-Day might fail. The atomic bomb might not be developed in time. World War II could last years longer with millions more deaths. Today in this alternate 2025, North America has two separate nations that despise each other. The United States, consisting of northern states plus the West Coast, is a developed democracy with about 180 to 200 million people. It's prosperous but not a superpower. The Confederate States is a struggling nation of about 120 to 150 million people. African Americans, roughly 40% of the population, only gained full civil rights in the 1980s or 1990s after decades of violent civil rights struggles. Poverty is widespread. Infrastructure crumbles. The economy depends on agriculture and raw materials. The border between USA and CSA is like the Korean DMZ. Families divided, heavy military presence, occasional violence. There's a massive wall in places with watchtowers and patrols. Culturally, they've diverged completely. Different flags, anthems, and heroes. In the USA, Lincoln is revered. In the CSA, Robert E. Lee's statues dominate public squares. Without a powerful United States, the entire 20th and 21st centuries look different. The Soviet Union might have won the Cold War. China faces no real rival. Democracy spreads more slowly worldwide. Technology develops slower without American innovation. Silicon Valley doesn't exist. The Confederate victory would have been catastrophic not just for America but for the world. It would have meant slavery continuing for generations, millions suffering under bondage and apartheid. It would have meant a divided America unable to stop fascism or communism. The Union victory in 1865 was a moral triumph that put America on the path to eventually becoming a beacon of freedom. Yes, that journey was long and painful, and America still struggles with racism's legacy. But at least the journey began. In the alternate timeline where the Confederacy won, that journey never starts, and millions remain trapped in oppression for another century.